How do you structure your show, and what is a podcast format? A format is the way that you keep your content organized and consistent. Without one, your show might seem a little random and disjointed. Sticking to a format is key for a seamless production schedule. So in this episode, I'm going to be talking about the types of podcast formats and which format might suit you best based on the type of content that you want to create. What up, guys, and welcome to Clipped, a show designed to help you become a better, more efficient podcaster. My name is Eric. I'm your host and founder of the Podcast Haven. Hope everyone is doing well. Hope everyone is out there hustling on that grind, creating those podcasts that you've always dreamed about, putting out that content and growing that audience. Today, we're going to be talking about podcast show formats and what is a format and how do you work within that format for the type of content that you want to create. Choosing a show format is super important. Your audience is going to come to expect that your podcast be more or less the same each week. It would obviously feel odd to your listeners if one week you went on a rant, the next week you interviewed someone and did a Q&A, and maybe the next week you had your buddies on drinking some beers, and the next week you did a solocast. Or maybe not. Maybe that's exactly what you want to do. But I caution you to keep some kind of structure week to week. It's fine to add in new segments here and there and bring up different guests or weird guests or talk about what's going on in your personal life or what's going on in the world with politics. But for the most part, you've got to stick to a format and you don't want to confuse your listeners. For example, for me, every day of the week, there's various podcasts that I listen to, and I kind of expect them to be similar to the way they were last week and the week before that. And it's almost like you're building this connection and your audience is expecting a certain feeling or emotion or expecting to learn something from you every week. And they know that, hey, a Thursday morning, this podcast is going to come out and it's going to make me feel some kind of way. And I've kind of put that in my schedule and my weekly routine, and I'm used to having those people in my earbuds talking about the same things, and that's why I enjoy listening to it, and that's why I come back every week for more, because it's kind of built into my life, and I enjoy that consistency. It helps me, it helps various other people get through their week. For the sake of simplicity, I put together a list of the 6 main show formats, starting with number 1, interview shows. This is probably the most common type of podcast. In this format, the host and or co-host sit down with somebody and interview them. They have a discussion, they get a dialogue going, and they probably are asking questions related to that person's area of expertise. They're interviewing somebody who has influence in the field or genre that the podcast is about. Number 2, roundtable podcasts. In my opinion, this is like a more casual approach to doing a podcast. It's when a group of people have a discussion and they kind of throw it back and forth to each other. It's a little bit more of a loose format or casual format. For example, a couple of months ago, the Rams won the Super Bowl. So if I was into football, which I am, I'm not going to do this, but if I had a podcast, sports-related podcast, I might have my buddies on, have some beers, and we'd talk about the game. Might talk about interesting plays that happened or what's going to happen in the offseason, who's going to get traded, who's going to get drafted. In my opinion, sharp and witty banter is kind of the key to making this type of podcast a success and making it funny. I lean into these type of shows because they're entertaining and I think they're funny. But you could also have a roundtable about something serious. Maybe you're talking about politics. Maybe there's kind of like Bill Maher's show on HBO. It's like 3 or 4 people and there's some structure to it, but they kind of toss questions around to each other or people interject with opinions and ideas and they have a discussion. Number 3, instructional. As in the title, these podcasts are going to teach you a specific skill. There's a ton of podcasts out there about trading crypto and investing in crypto. I have a couple small baggies myself, and so these are podcasts that interest me. Maybe you're into cooking, and maybe you're listening to a podcast or podcasts about cooking, and maybe they bring on people from the culinary world, and they teach you the recipes. They teach you the proper way to measure things, the proper way to marinate things. These are structured podcasts with the goal of trying to educate or inform the audience. Number 4, the solocast. That's exactly what I'm doing right now. It's myself on the mic alone in my studio. The solocast can take a couple different, you could be educating somebody, you could be doing something instructional, you could be talking about your personal life and helping people with their problems through your journey. Or maybe you could be doing comedy. I love this past weekend with Theo Vaughn. He has guests on, but he also does a lot of solo stuff where he talks about what he's got going on in his career, his Netflix special, and then he talks about things that he's struggling with or recent wins that he's had. The success of these shows largely depends on the host, in my opinion. If people fall in love with your personality or your wittiness or your ability to get vulnerable, audience is going to feel that, and they're going to either like that or not like it. And if they like it, odds are you'll have a higher chance of succeeding in this format. Number 5, narrative or storytelling. Typically, you're going to find these type of podcasts more being released by like production houses like Wondery or Gimlet or Stitcher or Spoke or Cast Media. These are usually podcasts that are telling some kind of compelling story. Think true crime, think the world of journalism, think news. These often include interviews with journalists, family members, if it's a true crime, eyewitnesses, or really anyone involved in the story. You're going to need a team to pull this off. You're going to need probably 4 or 5 people. You're going to need a couple producers, an editor, a writer, a fact checker, and maybe not a fact checker. If you're doing true crime, yes. But all that to say that these take a lot of work. They take money. They take time. You'll have to be a strong host and have a strong team to pull this off because they really are a group effort. Number 6, scripted. These podcasts are scripted just like a TV show. Someone has to write a script. You'll have to cast voiceover actors. Lately, a lot of these are even getting into the SAG world, the Screen Actors Guild, where union actors are being hired to voice the parts of these characters. Maybe you are a writer and you're thinking about writing a script, and maybe it's a little bit more challenging to break into TV or film and actually put your script to picture. Maybe you could think about launching a scripted podcast. Still a lot of work, still a lot of time and resources, but it might be a slightly easier barrier to entry where you can get your script out there. You're probably going to have to partner with the production house. You're going to have to cast it. You're going to have to rehearse it. You're going to have to record over and over to really get one of these things going. What's cool is that if you do gain some traction with a scripted podcast, the chances of turning that into a TV show are a lot greater. You'll already have like an built-in audience. You'll already have like a product that you could sell to a production house. Thanks for rocking with me today, guys. Hopefully this episode gave you some insight into the different types of podcast formats and provided you with a little info about the work required for your vision for the type of format or the type of show that you want to create. Also, if you're digging the show and you want to support me, please head on over to Apple Podcasts and rate and review the show. And if you want to go more in depth about any of these topics or podcasting in general, you can check me out on my blog. Go to thepodcasthaven.com/blog. I'm dropping new articles there every week or every other week. And I've also got an ebook up on Amazon called The 4 Pillars of Podcasting that'll take you through how to get your show up and running from idea through launch. We're also on Instagram at The Podcast Haven. Thanks for rocking with me, guys. Peace.